Welcome back to this week's episode, Friends of Kayla. I have a guest today who also grew up in Massachusetts, has a deep love for Israel, took him all the way there to living there today. He's turned his passion for the Jewish people into a full-time career, fighting our narrative online. So, Barak Swarttz, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kayla.
And I apologize, everyone. My voice is terrible right now. I actually was just at the Voices for Truth Combating Antisemitism conference and had a little too much fun. So
she was cheering so much her voice is gone, and we're gonna thrive. Don't worry.
We're thriving. So Barak's gonna take over most of the episode today. But I want to start at the beginning because I think you're very relatable, Barak. You know, you grew up in Massachusetts to two rabbis. So what was life like growing up as a Jewish kid in Massachusetts?
I think a lot of people, especially in Israel, I live there now, when I say that to people, they don't conceptually understand that, because like in Israel, through the Rabbanut, the rabbinate, women aren't getting ordained. So when I say my parents are both rabbis, they're like, they look at me like something didn't register. So my mom was ordained through the Reform movement. My dad was ordained through the Reconstructionist movement. And as a result of that, I grew up in a very spiritual household. Jewish holidays, Jewish tradition, Jewish music, Jewish food. Not on the religious side where everything was so observant. But because of this, my parents found it really important for my brother and I to have a connection to Israel. And so when I was 6 in 2001, we temporarily relocated to Jerusalem. My dad was on a program to study. I was with my brother in school, first and second grade. And this was during the Second Intifada, 2001, 2002, and 2003. So getting thrusted as a 6-year-old from Newton, where arguably the most dangerous thing is jaywalking at that point in the world, to Jerusalem, where there was just constant war, was a reality shift that forced me to grow really thick skin. And due to them being rabbis, that was what it was like growing up. It was growing up in a world where they were trying to tie in Jewish identity from the diaspora to our home. And, you know, every Friday night, Shabbat dinner, growing up, Fridays, sometimes we're going to synagogue, Saturday, we're going to synagogue. So I'm observing as this young kid what Jewish life is like as a 6, 7, 8-year-old in Israel, and also what Jewish life is like getting bar mitzvah and going to Jewish school. So I had this polarity, if you will, from being in greater Boston all the way to the homeland, not even just in the homeland, in Jerusalem. We lived in Talpiot, which is a city just minutes away from the Western Wall. So I was really thrusted into the epicenter of like where you and I stand up whenever the Torah is taken out of the ark. And so that was meaningful. It was just during a time that was bloody and difficult. So I grew up with that.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were there during the Second Intifada.
Second Intifada.
Yeah. And you also, I feel like we have this in common, like you're a basketball lover.
Yes.
You incorporate that into your content.
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up very Jewish, spiritually, especially having two rabbis as parents. But what was it like playing basketball? You know, being the token Jew on the basketball team.
The token Jew on the basketball team, yeah. I first picked up a basketball in Israel during first or second grade, and I just fell in love with the game. It was still to this day like probably the closest thing to homeostasis for me. It's the only really like method in the world. Some people it's yoga, some people it's hiking, some people it's nature, some people it's psychedelics. For me, basketball has always been return to presence, return to neutrality, return to center, where all the good and all the bad in the world really doesn't matter as long as I'm on that court. And I felt that like just the first few times picking up a ball and playing. Also
crazy, you learned basketball in Israel.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Basketball Hall of Fame, Springfield, Massachusetts.
I wanted to say that, but
that's where I'm from.
You plug it in.
Oh, I beat you to it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, like I'm from Long Meadow, right next to Springfield. So home of the basketball.
Home of the Basketball Hall of Fame.
James Naismith, who founded basketball. But you learned basketball, ironically, in Israel, not in Mass.
Yeah, but that's the Mecca. That's the Mecca for sure.
Yeah.
And if you like basketball, if you haven't gone, I would check out the Basketball Hall of Fame. They have in the basketball gym, you can see the evolution of the hoop itself from like a woven basket all the way to the NBA, and you can see it. It's cool.
Yeah, I grew up going to bar bat mitzvahs at the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Really?
Center court, people have their bar bat mitzvahs there.
So
that would have been you, Barak, if you had stayed
if I had to go to
13.
Israel.
Yeah.
I did when I was a postgraduate at the Pomfret School in Connecticut. We had a tournament at the Hall of Fame. I played there. Like I played a competitive high school game there.
That's sick.
It was sick. But in Israel, picked it up, and then it just became kind of like my part of my bloodline. Like basketball turned its way into my identity in many ways. I say that because the basketball court itself I frame it as my sanctuary. It's just a frame of reference of how I see the world, how I see people, how I see culture, how I see ethnicity, how I see race, how I see language, how I see holidays, how I see faith. All of the closest friendships that I've been able to foster throughout my life really trace back to anything between those four lines, all the way from Israel to Newton to college and high school and traveling. So for me, it's been a internal compass. Like that compass has taken me to friendships. It's taken me geographically from Newton to Israel. It's taken me across the world to speak on behalf of the work I'm doing now for global jewelry and the state of Israel. So for me, it's always like, that's when I say I return to center, it literally is actually the nucleus of like ideology for me, and a way for me to be able to relate to other people, because basketball falls under the category of culture. Music does, fashion does, cooking does. And sports is just a way to connect people. That's all I look at sports at its surface level. And that's basically what I'm trying to do now for Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was your experience like playing basketball, like on a team growing up? Were you the only Jew on the team the majority of the time?
When we came back to the States in 2003, played in like a local travel league where I was not the only Jew at the time. I got recognized from some of the local high school students at the time when I was in middle school. And they noticed that I was more dedicated and more passionate, and at the time more talented than the people that I was playing with. They kind of inherited me into their high school pickup games. And I was this little kind of white Ashkenazi Jew, but they allowed me and made me feel really comfortable to be able to compete with them. I'm talking about guys that are 3, 4, 5 years older than me, taller, faster, stronger, bigger, quicker. By any means, physiologically, like they surpass any quality that I could do. But that forced me to get way better than all the other people I was playing with at the time who were my age. Because of that, I then actually turned into one of the few Jews with the people I was playing with. And most of the guys that I was hooping with at this time were African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, and I was kind of like the white guy in the group. And it felt very comfortable for me because there was no conversation about skin color, race, ethnicity, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. It was just this orange basketball that unified us. And this was early. This was really early on. And that kind of embedded me into the thinking that I have about the world, the way that I see the world, the way that I see people. So you could say I was kind of like with other Jews, if you will. Newton is a very Jewish city.
Jewish, yeah.
So is Brookline, so is Needham,
Yeah.
so is Weston. But I kind of, not to crap on our own talent, but I was looking to play with non-Jews because I just found that they're a little bit better at basketball. Yeah. Just throwing that out there.
You know, we have a few guys. Denny. Shout out Denny. We have Amari Sotomayor.
Omri Caspi, Ben Salatlan, and we got some guys now in the league. Maybe we'll talk about them a little bit later. I had the opportunity to train Denny for a year when he was on Maccabi. I was a strength coach for them in 2019, the year before he got drafted. And that was also with Amari and Omri Caspi, the three people you just mentioned. We're all on Maccabi. So cool. we do have some good genes.
Some good blood there.
We haven't been recognized so much. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's awesome. I feel like our connection with basketball is like very interesting, because I also grew up, playing AAU basketball. Thought I was going to go to college for basketball. Did you play in college?
I did.
Okay.
I played Division III basketball at Elmira for 2 years, and then I transferred in between my sophomore to junior year to Curry in Milton. The day before I moved into Curry, I tore my ACL, so I actually didn't play my junior year. The transfer was like partially because of basketball, but also because being in Elmira, which is really out of New York, on the border of Pennsylvania, socioeconomically depressed area. I didn't feel like I was getting any progression through career stuff, so I wanted to come back closer to home. So I really only played 3 years. I still have a year of eligibility technically because I didn't play my junior year. I tore my ACL.
Don't tell me you're going back.
I have to take that with me to the grave.
You're like, I could go back to college.
No. We're not doing that.
30-year-old man.
The body's not the same. 31. Yeah.
31. It's easy. So, okay. You're not going back. I feel like guys are always like, oh, I have that 1 year. I could go back and play.
Look at my
like,
masters.
let's do it. Yeah. Like, okay, let's give that up. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're realistic about it. So you went to college for basketball. When did you decide to actually move to Israel?
So we lived there 2001 to 2003. The next time I was back in Israel was 2011 to play in the Junior Maccabi Games. And then the next time after that was 2016. I went on Birthright. I went on Taglit. And that trip was my first time like being back there, but more as a grown adult. So I had more to think about, more about Jewish identity to consider. And then after that 10-day trip, that cascaded into me thinking like, wait a minute, I felt way more connected those 10 days just being there. It was just being physically back in Israel that then I became a staff member for Birthright. So I basically staffed trips in the winters and in the summers. I did 4 trips. I became a recruiter, recruited over hundreds of people to go on these trips. Then I became a Birthright fellow. Then I became a content creator for them. So I was like in this space of going back and forth to in Israel from the States. And every single time I'd go back, I would extend my trip. I'd stay longer. I'd travel. It was just breadcrumbs for me looking at like I'm being called back to go there. What
was it about Birthright that changed your experience because you had lived there
100%.
as a young child?
So I think I was a little bit of an anomaly because most of the participants didn't spend 2 years in childhood there. I did, but that gave me it gave me a good reference to see how I felt being back there after what I had gone through. What I mean by that is like living there during the early 2000s, a car bomb went off on my street when I was walking to school with my brother. We had sirens, like because of the tension between, at the time, threats from Iraq into Israel of potential missiles that did contain toxic missiles that if you inhaled any of this, it could be deadly. We received gas masks like the second week that we were there from government officials. Like I was in war and I didn't know any Hebrew. So for me, it was foreign and scary. Yet going back to Israel on Birthright, going to Jerusalem, visiting where I went to school at Ephrata, like in Baka, I know exactly where it was. That was really nostalgic. Not only was it nostalgic, it felt home. It's just like the compass felt centered. So Birthright allowed, like that opportunity there was for me to go and see that and feel that and touch that and sense that. And that just, again, it opened up more for me. Like then I started staffing and then I just kept going and it just became clearer and clearer and clearer. Like there needs to be a next step. And it went on to a Masal program and then eventually me landing an internship with Maccabi. I did aliyah, like I made aliyah in a very, in a strategic way. I wanted to see if it actually made sense to go versus just jumping the gun and closing a trip just to get your passport. Like I wanted to see what it was like paying rent, opening a bank account. Like the bureaucracy in Israel is very tough. I wanted to see what that felt like. So I kind of did the slow cooked process of it and eventually was like, this is so clear to me. I want to go.
So there was never an ounce of you that wanted to stay
in America
after college?
No. I'll tell you, like, you know, I used to work in tech. I have a marketing degree for whatever that means. Today it really means shit. Like it doesn't like actually.
What is a degree
like,
in general?
We can probably do another podcast about that.
Yeah.
But I think I was born with a significant level of self-awareness. And I like remember when I was in middle school and I was in Watertown, Massachusetts, like playing basketball by myself at recess while all my friends or classmates, should I say, were playing foursquare and running. I was like putting up shots on the basketball hoop intently. Like I was doing like crossover one dribble pull-ups. I'm like in 4th grade and I had started to create this like competitive mindset with myself going after basketball. And it's because I was aware of the fact that I was trying to compete to go after something I love and finding what I love, finding passion. This is like 5th grade. I'm having questions in my head. Like, why are those kids in my grade not doing this with me? It didn't make sense to me. So as I went through life and I'm in America, I'm noticing I don't like my degree. I don't like my professors. I don't like my classes. None of the material's sticking. You're having me read books that I don't want to read. Like the whole concept of teaching seemed so reversed. Like I want to go to school to learn something. So I want you to teach me something I want to learn. But I wasn't being taught anything I want to learn. I was being taught things that were forced upon me. So I was kind of going against the grain. I was the black sheep. And the system, the educational system, and I would say conveyor belt of corporate world in America was definitely, I'm very sensitive to energy. I rejected it. Going back to Israel through Birthright allowed me to feel a different sense of energy that I felt very compelled to explore more. And it was like, after that Birthright trip in 2016, I came back and I was like, there's no fucking way I'm staying here in America. There's no way. I knew. I even knew before I signed my first contract to work at my first tech job after school. As I was signing the contract, I was thinking how many days until I quit. I just knew. It's self-awareness. You just know. Yeah.
So you have a marketing tech degree. Did you want to pursue basketball though? Like in Israel? Was that the goal?
The goal, well,
like what was the goal initially?
It's a good question. The goal initially was, I was injured throughout my entire career. I don't want to bore the audience with what I dealt with, but from 16, and I just turned 31 like a week and a half ago, from 16 even until today, it's like half my fucking life. I like have had a lot of different injuries, tendon wise, ligament wise, bone wise, neurologically. So the goal was to go to the NBA, and then you realize you're not going to go to the NBA. Can I get a scholarship? Okay, I'm not good enough to get a scholarship. Can I go Division 3? I went Division 3, but I was injured most of my career. Eventually you realize, like, what are you going after? So the goal was then actually just to get a job, because I was in the corporate model with around people who were forcing that corporate model and the professors at school. But then I realized that after a really important conversation with my trainer, Rudy, shout out to Rudy, he repositioned my thinking about going after something I love. And after that conversation, I'll never forget it, it was more about how do I combine the things I love the most, which were Israel basketball and family. And from that, I opened up my mind to, I think I'm going about this thing called life wrong. I'm going after a model versus creating my own. Then the goal became, how do I take this experience as an injured athlete and use it as an advantage to help others? So my injuries turned into me becoming a strength and conditioning coach to then train other basketball players so they didn't have to go through what I went through. That turned into me, after doing that in Boston, realizing I want to go back to Israel. So here's Israel, here's basketball and family back into one. That took me back there in 2019.
Okay, got it. And at the time, was your family still in Massachusetts?
All my family's in Massachusetts, always has
day.
been, still. Yeah, I don't have family in Israel. I have distant cousins, but I don't have any immediate family there, no.
So your parents are rabbis, so I'm sure they were
Yeah,
supportive of you moving to Israel.
For sure.
Yeah.
I told them, I was like nervous to tell them too. I don't know why, but as soon as I told them, I was more anxious about the convo than I thought what their reaction was going to be. Like, that was so profound. They were just like, yeah, I saw this one coming. Like I still have the note in my room in Israel of the conversation, like dated and everything. I'm very sentimental like that. I have a lot of stuff like that. And they were just like, yeah, this is like clear. So I was obviously showing signs of me not being happy in the States. Yeah. Clearly.
Yeah. But it's a hard life in Israel. And you talked about it. You're like, the bureaucracy, opening up a bank account, paying rent. Are those sacrifices and like the lack of ease of life there? Like, is that worth it to you?
If you open up a Excel spreadsheet and you write down all the pros and cons for the colleges that you want to go to, and this is what I did. And then you look at you put them out and you see what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the pros, what are the cons, and you kind of process of elimination. If I did that for life in America and life in Israel, the pros outweigh the cons, regardless if there are more cons in your column. The pro that matters the most in any scenario is your level of happiness. Like the meter that you can gauge of the level of where your consciousness is from a happiness perspective that is the baseline for however else your life is going to be. If you are an unhappy person, everything after that becomes less enjoyable. Your relationships, your work, your social life, your sleep, your nutrition, your happiness is your homeostasis. My happiness, and I think you know this, there is a chemical that runs through your body. It is an energy that happens when you go to Israel. It is not something you can put to words. It is just a physiological response that we have because Israel is the most holy place in the world, period. So when you enter the holiest place in the world, your body is entering a field of spirituality, of holiness. And that is not something you can describe. It's something you feel. So I think, like, yeah, we have war, we have taxes, we have bituach leumi, national insurance, we have mas achnasa, which is all the taxes, and you have all these things. Making money is hard. You can come up with all the cons. I find it interesting how the World Happiness Survey goes around the world every single year. And
Israel's always at the top of
Israel
that
was
list.
top 5 in 2023, post October 7th. So you want to tell me that even post the worst atrocity to happen to that country, to Jewish people since the Holocaust, still puts them in the top 5 list of happiest countries based on a incredible amount of data. That is eye-opening to me. It's so eye-opening to me that speaks to the level of energy that is so obvious to even non-Jewish people. Jewish people, non-Jewish people, you go there, I can go down a laundry list of people I know personally that have shared what I just shared with you as non-Jews through the basketball world especially. And I think that that is really important to emphasize. Like that within and of itself is a profound measurement of happiness. I have never felt that here. I've never felt that in America. I've never felt it anywhere else in the world. And I've been across the world now, especially the past 2 years. Even when I landed the other day, red eye from Tel Aviv to Miami, as soon as I got into Miami, like there's already a desire and willingness to want to be back home. Not because I'm homesick. It's just the compass is recalculating. Like that's just what it is. So I returned home. That is what home is. Home is multidimensional for me though, because I have family still in the States. So bloodline is not necessarily all in Israel. So I think home can be multidimensional in that way. I know you wanted me to talk, but like I'm good at talking too.
No, I said Barak 70% of this interview because I can't
Anyways,
talk
I
today.
think what your question was 45 minutes ago was like, did I ever think about staying in America? The answer
It was clearly no.
I hope that was your question. My bad.
No. That was good. But getting back to the survey around happiness, I obviously have seen that and I'm like, it makes sense. Like the familial ties, the spirituality, the connection to the land. It's so rare and indescribable, as you said. But I also wonder on the flip side, like, is it ranked top 5 happiest countries? Because like the bar is so low on what happiness means in a war-ridden country.
Interesting.
Think about it. In America, we're privileged to not experience what Israelis experience.
Sure. But the war, so I think the wars, the many wars happening in America in a very, like, yes, there is no bordering sovereign country at the moment that is historically, since America's establishment, been firing rockets that we can agree on into its borders from the north or wherever. There's a very different framework of war in America that is interesting enough, though, to be able to then say it's profound that most people I've ever met that have come into Israel will walk away saying they feel safer there than America. And that's not me. You can go out and ask how they feel. And so, like, I don't think the bar is low. I think context it's incomparable. The geopolitical landscape of the Middle East to the United States of America, not fair to compare. Cultural establishment, the way that you are raised in the Middle East versus the way you are raised from mom and dad or at home, the levels of love or compassion and how you inherit those things is very different. You go to the East, you go to Japan, you hear a lot of people who understand and see that things there's an incredible amount of respect. There's an incredible amount of integrity. There's an incredible amount of politeness and cleanliness. Like there's a video now surfacing online of the subway system. And I think in Japan, there's a gate that if you want to board onto the subway, you wait, the subway comes in, the doors open, everyone who's on the subway has to get off, those gates open, and then once they all leave, then the gate for you opens to go on. In Israel, when the bus pulls up, it happened to me the other day when I was with my luggage and I had to take a step off the bus and like 14 teenagers blocked me in. The code of conduct.
They're silent on the trains. No one speaks.
No one speaks.
Yeah.
So I don't think the bar is low. I think the bar is contextual. And yet the amount of data that the World Happiness Survey goes around and pulls there's an incredible spectrum. I'm not saying, by the way, everyone in Israel is super happy. We have ridiculous amounts of trauma and ridiculous amounts of damage and ridiculous amounts of political and religious divide. We have internal war, which maybe we'll talk about. And I'm not neglecting that. There's so much about living in Israel that is difficult.
But for you and for many people, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer, but it's unfair for me to then expect that of others.
Yeah. And I think we need Jews in the diaspora as well, personally.
Yeah.
I know there are some Jews that think everyone needs to go home, be in our homeland, but what's the world without a Jew?
Yeah.
In other areas of the world?
That's a conversation for sure.
Yeah.
I do also find value in Jews in the diaspora.
It's hard in the diaspora. So, okay, you went from basketball to being a fighter against anti-Semitism online.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that transition and how that happened.
We don't have a lot of time here, but
We don't. Okay.
I'll try to comb through this. So when I made aliyah, the army didn't call me to serve. I had a significant amount of survivor's guilt for the first few years living in Israel because my friends would go into Gaza or Lebanon and I'd kind of be in Tel Aviv, and I wouldn't really have a way to contribute. After the 7th of October, I went back to the States. I felt unsafe in Israel. I was in Boston with my feet on the couch, and I was like, I got to do something. I opened a YouTube channel. I started talking about the conflict from the perspective of an athlete. I then found out one of my friends got killed at the Nova Festival. So I had this desire to not be incredibly emotional with anger, but a desire to create some nuanced dialogue as a voice of reason in a time of extreme polarization. The hatred on both sides that I saw I understood why. And in fact, if I scroll back to the beginning when I started making content, I took part in that. And I actually keep that up there on my platform because I like to see the evolution of my own consciousness through this. Speaking once or twice or 3 times, 4th video on YouTube went viral. That turned into more YouTube videos, which turned into a brand, like the brand that I had already going through basketball growing. Then people started asking me across the world to come and speak. Then I started to get some help. Now I have a team, which turned into a nonprofit that has turned into my passion to raise consciousness around the world through my journey of my own spiritual awakening and understanding the root source of where this anti-Semitic rhetoric and hatred is coming from, plus hate in general, and as well as doing tikkun olam. When I tell you that when I knew I didn't want to work at that tech job, it's very linear, because I could have climbed from being a BDR to an AE to a senior AE to a manager, and then I could have maybe taken that, gone to a next company and just keep doing that until I'm 47 with a white picket fence. Or I decided to take the most unconventional and illogical route possible, which is high risk. And the high risk that I took applies to this part of my life too. There was no security around this decision to be like, let me park basketball and just fucking start talking to a microphone. There was no financially sound security around it. It was just a desire to share truth. And I think when you come from that standpoint with the right reasons, good things happen. I got into this for the right reasons. I did not get into this to build a platform. I didn't get into this to have followers, have engagement. I got into this because I didn't see enough people creating nuance, important, healthy nuance, and personally felt like I needed to contribute. That's how I got into it, and that's what I do today. It's really you want to take the content, the content creation journey is lefts and rights, a lot of U-turns, a lot of signs that say, warning, don't go this way. You're supposed to go that way. Don't follow the sign that says go this way. I keep going that way, and it works for me, and it's worked my whole life. Yeah. So now I'm in a much structured place in my life. I have a very clear path, but the beginning, you asked, how did I get here? It's not linear. It's really throwing darts at the board until something sticks.
Well, I just think it's so interesting because you went from being this basketball coach, trainer, to starting talking online about Israel. And then all of a sudden here you are talking about Hamas and Hezbollah. How do you even feel well equipped to have this conversation?
Yeah. So
it's difficult. It's
difficult.
You don't have a political background.
Don't have a political background, not a geopolitician, not a military expert, didn't study Middle Eastern politics. What I do have is lived experience in Israel. I live there. I have access to information that most of the world doesn't have access to. And I have the perspective from the basketball court that allows me to filter this language into something digestible for people to be able to resonate with what's going on. A lot of the language that's being pushed out there is antagonizing. It's heavy, and it comes from a place of anger and fear. When you operate from anger and fear, it's the gun is in the holster, and when you're already ready to lock and load, that you're going to transmit what you're carrying. I have the ability, and I really do credit it to how I was raised by my parents. My brother going to a Bedouin village at 6 years old to build a medical facility for Arab children that didn't have clean drinking water, living in a tent for 3 weeks, speaking to them in sounds and noises because I didn't speak Arabic. This is a 6-year-old, in Israel. I was gifted with this ability to be able to connect with other people. So I think inside of me, I have the language and the ability to convey the messages. And then on top of that, you live there, but then also, I had to work to understand truth, reading and understanding and learning and studying. So it's interesting, like the expertise in particular fields is important, but we operate as humans. We make our decisions based on how we feel. So people aren't making their decisions on the Middle Eastern conflict because of the left side of their brain. They're making the decisions on the Middle Eastern conflict, Israel-Palestine, because of the story that's being told. And what we do very poorly is tell stories. And so I felt like I needed to hop in and be somewhat of a healthy lens into this conflict from a storytelling perspective, because I actually think that's one thing the opposition, if you will, does a very good job at. And I don't think we do. So yeah.
Based on things that we, don't do well, not to be negative, but you've talked about how anti-Semitism is being fought wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we often come out like we're the victims.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share more what you mean by that and like what you've seen be actually successful online?
Since we don't have a lot of time left, I just want to add that I think it's really important to reframe that I don't think we are the victims. I think that some of us carry a victim mindset. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I really encourage the people listening to listen to what I'm saying and not how I'm saying it, because two very different things. There was a study done at Tel Aviv University in 2020. I believe it was called the TIV study, the tendency for interpersonal victimhood. They found 29 different characters or traits that would essentially characterize what one would need to possess in order to be living in a victimhood state. And they funneled these down to 4 different things. The need for recognition, a moral elitism status, lack of empathy, and rumination. I'm going to break those down. The need for recognition is somebody who is a victim of something, somebody that has experienced an injustice. You feel that you need others to know about your injustice. You have to make sure that the others around you recognize that you were on the receiving end of an injustice. Number 2, due to the fact that, and by the way, this is not like judgments or caste. This is just what the study found as like characteristics and traits that would consider somebody to have a victimhood mindset. The second would be feeling like you have a moral license due to the fact that you have experienced some sort of being a victim, that what you do and what you say in response is justified as right. Therefore, the other is wrong. So you have this moral elitism status. As a result of that, it weaves into number 3, which when you feel that you have that moral licensing to do that, you then by default have lack of empathy for other people, meaning you have the inability to see someone else's perspective because you think that yours is justified as a result of what you went through. Then number 4, that leads into rumination, meaning to dwell on a lot of the negativity. All of those characteristics and traits, which is connected to consciousness, which I fucking wish we had more time so we could talk about because it's so important I provide this context in a long form format. Those traits and characteristics I see with my naked eye all day on the internet. I have to be careful with how I say this, and a lot of time in person. In person with how we talk about the conflict, in person with how we talk about the other side, in person with how we talk about how we should be solving it. I had an experience with a waitress 4 days ago in Miami. When I told her that I was from Israel, I immediately noticed on her face that she was a little maybe less comfortable with the fact that I was from Israel. Now, I had 2 decisions. One was to pry at that, or 2 was to continue the conversation and not make it clear to her that I'm aware of the fact that maybe she's uncomfortable because I think I read it right. Yet I continued the conversation. And when I continued the conversation and let her feel safe again, the conversation got open and better, and she became more willing to want to talk to me and explore conversations about my life. In the comment section of that video, without naming names, there were many people on the side that I'm fighting this fight with that said, no, fuck that. You should have ripped her one, and you should have told her why she should feel uncomfortable, and you should have told her that she should fuck off, and you should have told her why we're right and why the Palestinians are wrong. And you go into the comments, and this is one video, Kayla. We have thousands of videos on the internet.
Imagine. Yeah.
Why am I saying that? And I'll wrap this up. That response by somebody, which is a knee-jerk response of an overly emotionally stimulated person who feels victimized as a result of something either that happened in their own life or the conflict, they are projecting. Drake has an amazing line in Do Not Disturb. He says, I'm a reflection of all your insecurities. When you see someone else do something that you don't like, meaning that person is doing something that I don't like, all that is a mirror reflection of things that you don't like in yourself. Every other human being that does, it's your mom, your daughter, your dad, when they do something that makes you angry, meaning it hurts your nervous system, you actually have wounds and traumas in you that you haven't resolved in your own inward life. So when people comment like that, it is a reflection of wounds and traumas they have not resolved in their own life, and then they throw it out there. This falls exactly under the category of a victim mindset. And just for the people who are interested to understand what this can do physiologically, the emotion of anger actually triggers immunoglobulin A in our bodies for 6 hours the moment that you are angry, which is the body's first line of defense to stopping infection. After that, for 3 hours after you are angry, you have a 2% chance higher at having a heart attack, 3% chance higher having a stroke. You have a 600% increase of having a brain aneurysm. Long-term effects could be depression, anxiety, or lung inflammation. If just anger can do that to your body, imagine what that feels like every day when you are angry on the internet and then when you're angry in real life. It will have not only the emotional impact on you, it will have the physical impact on you. So the victim mindset, when I go on the internet and I say that I think that we have a lot of work to do inwardly, and I really wish maybe we'll do a part 2 next time in Miami, because there's something that I brought with me that I think is so important to add to this. It's because I am on the side of trying to heal us so that Johnny Pants 442 doesn't get on the next video and projects out what he hasn't or she hasn't resolved in their own life. That is going to translate into how they see the world. I'll wrap up by saying, me, you, the cast here, we all have belief systems in the world. Our belief systems influence our thoughts. Our thoughts fuel our emotions, and our emotions drive behavior. In who we are in the world, our behavior produces results. The behavior that we have can either reaffirm the fact that you have limiting beliefs about the world. Oh yeah, that person is a schmuck. Oh yeah, that thing is a failure. Or your belief systems might open up your mind to expand to maybe a different perspective. Being aware of the fact that your belief systems influence your thoughts, which fuel your emotions, which dictate your behavior, that is being aware of the fact that you have a consciousness. Raising consciousness is just a simple idea of taking belief systems about the world that don't serve you. You take those out, you remove them so that your thoughts and your emotions and your behavior, meaning you change who you are in the world, meaning you aren't projecting hate, that changes. When I say we have a victim mindset, it's because I think we have belief systems that we're carrying with us, trauma, baggage, Holocaust, Exodus, everything that we haven't resolved. That is what I mean by a victim mindset. And it is solvable. It is so solvable, but I think this fight that we have needs to start with us looking like Drake said, I'm a reflection of all of your insecurities. J. Cole in High for Hours has an incredible verse on how the world, the fight that we have is inwardly. We're fighting outwardly. Everything is inwardly. Everything is a projection. We have to look inwardly. I know we're going over time and I apologize, but this shit needs context, because the 45-second reel that I have on Instagram, when it ends there and they're like, fuck you, Barak, I'm not a victim, there's context. So that's what I mean by that.
Absolutely. I'm here to give you a voice. I wanted you to explain that.
Hopefully we have more time, because I can go on this for a while. And it's not to point fingers. You know, Gary Vee, my favorite content creator of all time, has a really good line where he says, everyone in the world is really good at doing this. They take their index finger and they're pointing, they're blaming, I'm a victim, you. He says, when are we going to take the thumb? And when are we going to look at the mirror? When are we going to look at ourselves and hold ourselves accountable? It's his fault. It's her fault. Fuck that politician. Trump, dump, pump. Like, everything is always you. That is a victim mindset. So Gary's right. J. Cole's right. Drake is right. All of the people, I had names to give you that I wanted. I had something I want to show you. I know we're over time here, so I apologize. But like, this is my jam, and this is the road that I'm on, and I think it is absolutely the thing that we need to talk about more. Slicha, I apologize for going over.
No, I have one more question and then we'll wrap it up. But no, I think I wanted you to be able to share that. So thank you for for doing the
I
work
hope that,
you're
I don't know if
doing,
that
and
made sense.
I
Like,
think it absolutely
I
makes
hope,
sense.
and I know that's not going to resonate for anyone, but like if you took the car and you opened up the hood, that's the machine that I'm operating on.
Well, I think
you
you're
know?
trying to humanize us as Jews, as Israelis, like the moment you had in Miami. What would you say to that woman other than what you did?
That's exactly.
And that's shocking to see the reactions of people that follow you online. There's nothing negative there. Like, I think about when I'm in an Uber with a Cuban guy that speaks Spanish and is telling me how the Jews are the devil and Donald Trump's only for the Jews. And he sees all the Jews in Miami Beach with their long skirts and their big hats. And that's all he knows, but he's never met a Jew. Like, I'm there to understand and ask questions and give him a positive interaction with a Jew, said Jew, and then share with him when I leave and exit the Uber safely, I'm a Jew, right? And
It's the best that you could do. Yeah. 100%.
So-
And I would have done the same thing if I was in your position, but you speak better Spanish than I do.
Yeah, it was difficult.
It was good. It was good.
But so I guess, Barak, on that note, to conclude our conversation, what are some good examples of combating anti-Semitism in the online space today? Outside of being a keyboard warrior.
First of all, I think being a keyboard warrior shouldn't even be a thing. So not outside of it, I would say let's remove that.
But that's not an option. Yeah.
It's
that's more what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. From my perspective, that should not be in a pursuit. I think that we need to take more responsibility for the things that we have control over to fix in our own world, which is why I use the example of when Gary said that, or when Drake says that, or when J. Cole says that. It's art to show that we are God. We have the ability to change the frequency that we operate on. If you operate in hate and fear and anger, that's what you're going to transmute. If you operate in love and bliss and serenity, that's what you're going to transmute. This is also physics. Like, we have magnetic resonance. Frequency actually goes beyond our bodies. So when you know that, there are tools in science that can measure this, can measure the frequency that you're on.
Not to cut you off, but this reminds me, this week at the conference, we heard from a neo-Nazi.
Yes, Arno. Yeah, amazing.
Arno.
Man. Yeah.
And he said, I was miserable for 7 years because I was filled with hate.
With hate.
So imagine, like you said, like what that does to your body, mentally and physically.
It's called I believe, a magnetoencephalograph, which is a tool that you can put onto your head and it measures the magnetic frequencies outside of your body to show if you're a hateful person or a loving person. If a lot of us understood through inner work that a lot of us, based on the hate comments, you don't need me to tell me, I can see that you haven't solved something, which is inward work. If we did the inward work of healing wounds and traumas that stem from childhood, it stemmed from the way we were raised. I've been going through a really deep journey of my own life using astrology as a language just to understand more about human behavior. If we did this work to understand what is getting Johnny Pants 992 to actually take the time, take his thumbs and write that and press enter, that's a big deal. It's a big deal to show the world that's your stamp of approval of how you feel. We need to look inwardly and take responsibility and be less reactive. I study Kabbalah. The biggest concept in Kabbalah is being proactive versus reactive. So to your question, what can we do more of? Less reactive. We react. We're reacting because we're doing this. We're reacting because a lot of us have that victim mindset, and it is perpetual. It's continuous. The last thing I'll say is the reason I think we have the victim mindset today is, yes, we were legally freed from slavery through Exodus, but we carried with us a slavery mindset. That slavery mindset still persists with us today. Whether it's hard for us to confront that or not, it's visible. It's visible from the comment to the flyer to there's 1,000 examples I can give. We need to heal that. We have to heal that internally, inwardly, change the Jewish world. Things will change if we do that. I am bullish on that until I go to my grave.
Thank you, Barak. This was amazing to be here. It's been a long time in the making. I'm happy we were able to do this.
And your voice is great.
Thank you so much.
Your voice is great.
Thank you for speaking majority of this episode. All right, thanks, Barak. See you in Israel this summer.
Yeah. Thank you.